The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Season 13 of Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico. Joining me this week on the Coach's Corner panel is my good friend, Jim Endicoot. Also tonight on the show, I'm going to be joined by my co-host and travel expert, Robert Kaufman, alongside this evening's special travel guest, Blake Froling. He is the PGA and general manager of Gamble Sands. A little bit later on the show, I'm going to be joined by my featured guest of the evening, Bobby Steiner, the director of golf instruction at Horseshoe Bay Resort in Texas. So it's going to be a great full-packed show tonight, so you want to make sure you stick around for that. Let me just remind everybody, if you want to watch the show, including all of the previously aired episodes, you just go and visit the iGolf Sports YouTube channel or visit on Spotify.com. Don't forget to subscribe when you're there. You can listen to the audio version as well on Spreaker.com or basically wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, as I said, to subscribe to the channels iGolf Sports and get notified of new episodes as they're added each and every week. Also, if you're looking to elevate your game, become a premium member at golftipsmag.com, golftipsmag.com to gain access to our premium content, plus receive special discounts from some of our premium partners and sponsors. We have 3 membership levels to choose from: silver, gold, and platinum. So don't wait. Register today by visiting golftipsmag.com. All right, as I mentioned, we're going to start things off with Coach's Corner, as we always do here Thursday nights. And my good friend Jim Endicoot, he's currently the PGA education faculty member and PGA specialized professional in both teaching and coaching, former Golf Digest School general manager, and a 7-time PGA award winner, including the 2022 North Florida PGA Section Patriot Award and 2 North Florida PGA Youth Development Awards. And he's also a Golf Tips Magazine Top 25 instructor and contributor. So, Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ted. Great to be here. I'm looking forward to this show tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you as well. Always enjoy our conversations. And now that I've hopefully untied my tongue, we'll get into a good discussion. I'll tell you, it's a lot to read off every week, so it gets to you sometimes, but we'll get it nailed down. So what we're going to talk about tonight here is we're going to talk about distance control. This is something we really haven't covered. We're going to get into a lot of different specific things, so I thought this would be a good topic since it's just going to be you and I tonight on the panel. So distance control with irons particularly is crucial if you want to become a good scorer or a better player of the game. Obviously, it involves understanding how far each iron goes and making adjustments based on the course conditions and obviously your desired outcome. So some techniques we're going to cover is going to be, choking down on the club as an example, maybe controlling swing speed and practicing with maybe different swing lengths. We'll talk about that and how they can benefit and help you to dial in on your numbers. And this is really what we're going to try to do tonight, is to help golfers achieve a better distance control of their irons. So let's talk about the first one, sort of in this key techniques, if you will, for distance control. And we're going to talk about choking down. We see a lot of players do that. First off, let's talk about what we're actually meaning by choking down on the club a little bit. And, I'm often reminded, before I get you to respond to that, I'm often reminded of a number of great, particularly wedge players. Tom Kite comes to mind. He talked about this in a video years ago, how he would choke down and it would help him with his distance control. And he was one of the earlier players that played with 4 wedges in his bag. So this was a thing. So what are the benefits? And maybe you're not somebody that really subscribes to that. I want to get your thoughts in general, but how do you feel about choking down on the club? Is it something that is going to help? Is certainly one aspect of helping control club distance?
Yes, absolutely. And to understand choking down on the club, let's understand what that means. I've got a club here, and if I take my grip and the hands are all the way up here towards the top, Let me see if I can demonstrate that here.
Yeah,
I've
perfect.
got my grip here this way. Choking down on it would be to lower the hands on the golf club so that some of the butt end of that club is going to stick out beyond their hands. And for me, I have found that for about every half inch to an inch, I choke down on the club, it'll adjust the distance of that golf club by approximately 5 yards.
Okay.
And so you can take it down half an inch, 5 yards, take it down an inch, could be 7 to 8, maybe as much as 10 yards in just changing that. And what happens when you do, in fact, choke down on the golf club, it needs to change your posture. Your posture will bend over just a little bit more this way. And that is going to accommodate that shorter golf club for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is one way that we can adjust the distance. The other way we can adjust that distance in terms of choking down, we can go down in club or up in club. Mm-hmm. If I go up in club and choke down, that would be a way to put us in between clubs. Let's say you are at a yardage that is between, say, your 6-iron and your 7-iron. Mm-hmm. I could take, and if there's a 10-yard gap between there, I could take my 6-iron and I could reach down on it by about a half an inch. And that in turn would give me something in between that 6 and 7-iron distance, not changing what I do with the golf swing. Go ahead and execute the golf swing in the same manner that I normally do. I just simply have reached down on the golf club to change that distance. The other thing that it will do for you is it will actually flight the golf ball a little bit lower, because the size of the arc is now going to be a little bit smaller. The overall radius or diameter of that circle becomes a little bit smaller, and that in turn lowers the flight. Can that help us with our distance control as well? Yes, certainly within the context of playing in the wind, where I needed to flight it underneath it, or I need to flight it underneath it so it lands and lets it release on out. So that changing the length of the golf club by choking down does a number of things in terms of the adjustment of the distance.
And some great points. I want to go back to something that you said I think is important to really emphasize, because you talked about really not changing anything with the swing itself at this point. We're going to get into some other issues here in a moment. But so if I understand you correctly, and I just want to make sure that the listeners pick up on this as well, is even though you might be choking a half an inch or an inch down, you're still swinging the same distance with that club, meaning if you're taking it a full swing, it's still going to be a full swing. It's just you're now choked down on the club a little bit, which is going to affect the ball flight a little bit. It's going to lower it a little bit. And then obviously the distance is going to be a little bit less as well. So I just want to make sure that people understand that. So you're not talking about changing anything else at this point with the swing. We're just simply choking down the club to shorten that arc a little bit and give us a shorter distance and maybe even a little bit of a lower ball flight. Is I understanding you correct?
Exactly. If you think about, let's take a particular golf club I have that, let's say, is 36 inches in length, and I choke down on it an inch. Now that golf club effectively is only 35 inches. Right. Thus, the circle that it's working on becomes a little bit more compact. And in doing that, the height of the arc is a little bit less. Mm-hmm. Thus, the flight of the golf ball would come down a little bit as well.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that. I just want to make sure that people understood that component, because I don't want them to think, okay, I'm choking down, it means I've got to adjust my swing in some other way, and that's not what we're talking about here in this particular aspect. Now, what we are going to talk about swing speed control is where we might adjust our swing speed. Nicholas talked about, very famously in Golf My Way in his video, where he would use different clubs, but he would use the same swing for each club. But there were moments when he would have to obviously adjust his swing speed. So talk about that a little bit as well. And again, this is where we're getting into something that's a little bit different. We're not talking about choking down per se. We're talking about actually adjusting the swing speed. So maybe you could touch on that a little bit.
Yes, the size of the arc can change by choking down, but I can leave the arc the same size and I can swing it at a slower rate of speed. And what happens effectively then is when I swing at a slower rate of speed, the ball actually leaves the club at a slower rate of speed and flies through the air at a slower rate of speed. I like to adjust in that manner because now when the ball lands on the green, it lands and it lands softly and it doesn't release out as much. It will also at a slower rate of speed. It doesn't impart as much backspin on the golf ball. Thus, the ball doesn't go up as much. Again, slower rate of speed, choking down on it, a smaller arc, all tend to make the golf ball go a little bit lower. The slower rate of speed makes the ball speed less, and thus the flight distance is less. Ball speed being how fast does the golf ball come off of the club face when it strikes the golf club.
So give us an example of where you might use this scenario. So if you were playing on the golf course, why would you want, I mean, you mentioned some results that are going to happen on the other end of it, but give us an example scenario of where you would want to do this, where you would want to implement and why you would want to do that.
Well, I might want to swing at a slower rate of speed if I were going to be going into the wind.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is the slower rate of speed, as I said earlier, there's a slower backspin rate. And if I'm going into the wind, the slower backspin rate avoids the climbing of the golf ball. If I were to take and choke down on it and swing at a higher rate of speed, or a full rate of speed, I should say, that imparts a little faster revolutions per minute on that backspin, and that gives it a chance to do this sort of a thing in the air. Now, I like the idea of changing distance by choking down if I am flighting the golf ball where the wind is left to right or right to left. I want a very compact and tight revolution of that golf ball so that the wind coming these two different directions doesn't affect the flight of the golf ball direction.
Right.
Whereas if I give it that high rate of speed by swinging fast with a choked down golf club, now it has a chance, if I'm going into the wind, to do this more and
Gotcha.
to climb up into the air, and it may balloon and end up shorter than I wanted it to be. So I like the slower rate of speed by the slower rate of speed of the golf swing causing a slower rate of speed of the backspin on the golf ball.
Gotcha. Makes perfect sense. The other thing that I wanted to get you to talk about a little bit too, but I'm going to ask you this one first, and I'm going to come back because I got a follow-up question really with all three. The other one that we want to talk about for controlling distance is the actual swing length. You know, we've often heard about this, halfway back, halfway through, 3/4 back, this sort of thing. Dave Pelz was very famous about talking about that. And there's a couple of different variables that I want to address here. And again, I'm not going to suggest that one is any better than the other. Some people have sort of adopted the philosophy, however far you're taking it back, that's how far you should take it in the follow through. Others feel, if you're going halfway back, you should still finish your follow through to complete swing. So I want to get your thoughts on that as well. But how do you best, I guess, when you're teaching your students, how do you best incorporate when they've got to make adjustments to the length of their swing now, how they go about doing that?
Well, I like to talk about in executing a golf shot, there's methods in which we address the golf ball that give us the ability to change what the flight of the golf ball is. And I go to a lot of the discussion of things that we do in short game that help us with this. For example, we can hit our golf ball with a shot that is my normal stock loft on the golf club, full swing. Good lie, there's our full swing stock shot. I could then play a shot where I narrow my stance slightly, which changes a little bit of my rotation, which changes a little bit of the length of the golf swing. And this, in essence, is what I would call in the short game a pitch shot. Now, I can pitch the golf ball with a 6 or 7 iron. The ball's just not going to go as far because of the limited stance. There's a limited amount of body rotation, and it limits my golf swing. without me creating a change in that swing. The stance does it for me. Now, in order to adjust that flight in the size of the swing, I would be working towards that idea of pitching. If I'm pitching it around the green, I have a high lofted club. I change the length of the backswing and I change the length of the through swing. Now, if I do in fact change the length, let's call it halfway back and halfway through, that's going to produce a flight that's shorter, but also lower. Again, when the size of the arc gets smaller, when the arc is lower in the backswing and through swing, the flight's lower. Now, if I want to hit a shot that's shorter but still has trajectory, now I might be one that takes it halfway back, but I would finish up and over my shoulders with a more full follow through. So the trajectory of the golf shot is going to dictate the type of the golf swing in terms of size. So small back in through, lower flight. Small back full through, higher flight. Longer back, finish lower, even lower flight. So it changes the trajectory while you're trying to adjust the distance.
So it gives you a lot of variables here, really, depending on the shot needed. And this is where I think, we talk about this so much on the show about practicing, because, you can't just go out on the golf course and just try to implement these things if you've never really worked on them, because, again, you don't know how the ball is going to react if you haven't really practiced it. So, anything that we talk about in the program, I always try to urge people to get out there and experiment a little bit, practice with it. Practice taking it halfway back and halfway through and see what happens. Then take it halfway back and then finish, as you say, a full swing or more fuller finish, if you will, and see how the ball reacts to that. And then conversely, as you just touched on there, is maybe a little bit more of a backswing and a shorter follow through, and see how that affects the ball flight and conditions as well. And I think when you do that, it gives you a little bit bigger repertoire to work with, so that, again, depending on the scenario, whether it's maybe wind in your face or maybe wind coming from either left or right or even behind you, can dictate how you're going to handle that shot. And, a lot of people don't think of these things. And this brings me to what I wanted to ask you, now that we've had a few of them under our belt here. Can we adapt more than one of these? Now, there's others that we're going to talk about, but for instance, can we choke down and adjust the swing speed, or can we choke down and adjust the length, or can we do maybe all three that we've discussed? Is there opportunities to do that, or are we getting it too confusing? And the reason I ask that is because somebody might get out there and say, well, I need to choke down, but at the same time, I don't really need a full swing. So can I adjust, accordingly to some of the other topics we covered? So give us your thoughts here and how would be the best way to handle that.
And before I get to that, I want to back up just a moment. When I'm saying the size of the golf swing, the primary change in that distance has to do with the arm action. Right. The body rotation is very much the same, whether it's a halfway back or halfway through, halfway back, all the way through. That's the size of the arm swing. But to take and combine or mold these together, 100%, there's definitely those needs as we get better and better. And by all means, as you were saying, are we making it too complex? We have to be sure as a player that we are checking our skill set. Right. Does our skill set fit what I'm trying to do? Mm-hmm. Is it better for me to simply change my tool to change the distance my golf ball goes? Right. And at a certain skill level, that is by all means the only way I would go about it. I would change from a 7-iron and reach down on it an inch and make my normal full swing. But as my skill level gets better and I have better control of the club head, now I get into the idea of changing the distance of the golf shot or the golf swing and the size of that golf swing and the pace of it. Mm-hmm. And I think I would say in an order or a hierarchy is the newer player, the lesser skilled player, simply change the tool. choke down on it, full swing. As we get better, we can change choke down and change size of swing.
Right.
And the last one would be changing the pace of the swing.
Right.
I think that requires the most skill and most control. And when I say understanding the club head, is understanding this part here and how it works and how you are able to swing it.
Right.
And that takes a lot of practice, as you said. And, you mentioned Tom Kite. I recall watching a video of him, and he was hitting wedges and working on his distance control.
Yeah.
And he had taken little hand towels. They weren't much more than, say, 6 inches by 6 inches. And he put them out at various distance, about 10 yards apart.
Mm-hmm.
And he would put his caddy at one of them. He said, okay, we're going to hit 60-yard wedges here. And so his caddy would stand by the towel, and Tom would hit his shot. And as soon as he hit it, he would describe the distance. He would hit that shot, and he'd say, well, that one's 61.
Yeah.
And the caddy would recognize and say, yep, you're right. When
Yep.
he hit the next one, and that would be 59.
Yep.
And so he had done it enough, and he'd done the practice enough in the various ways he wanted to change the distance. And he obviously was really good with his wedges, and he did all of the above of what we've described.
Yeah, I mentioned him for a specific reason because we might have been watching the same video. I mean, he's done a few of them over the years, especially earlier in his career. But I always find it interesting when you listen to players and how they talk about why they do certain things and how it affects the ball flight and how it affects us. And again, for our average high handicapper, some of these things maybe they're not going to incorporate, as you suggest, right away until they get to be a little bit more proficient player. Maybe they're going to start, as you said, with just choking down or changing the club, using a different club or something, but taking the same swing. So there's a lot of variables that can come into this play. And again, it depends on your skill level, how you're going to adapt to these. Another one I want to talk about is, again, this can assist in helping as well, and that is ball position. Typically we have maybe a ball position that we're using for our normal ball flights and our normal shots. But when we're getting into, some of these shots where we need to control distance, ball position comes into effect. So talk about that a little bit as well. Explain how that plays a role in distance control.
Yes. And I think when we get into ball position, what we're really getting into is the adjustment of the loft of the golf club. Mm-hmm. And particularly with a wedge, is as I move the ball further forward in my stance. And I like to use an example of establishing the ball position based on when I aim my golf club. I'm going to pull one up here.
Sure.
When I aim my golf club with the correct loft, such as I have here, I'm holding a 7-iron here. If I aim that golf club with the correct loft, the way the shaft of the club comes out of that golf club is indicative of how that golf club will perform.
Right.
And what I mean by that is when I put down a wedge, the shaft of the golf club has a little more lean there. Mm-hmm. And I always want a reference of where the shaft of the club or the butt end of the club points relative to the body. And that reference is always the same. For me, the reference of where this points on my body is about an inch towards my lead side of the center of my body. Mm-hmm. And I use it there for all of my golf clubs.
Right.
Now, if I were to take and make this 7-iron have additional loft, mm-hmm. you can see how that shaft of the golf club now is leaning towards my, as a right-handed golfer, towards my right side or away from the target. Mm-hmm. I would adjust myself to stand where this is pointed. And you can see when I stand at that, where that's pointed, the ball would be further forward in my stance. So the positioning of the ball between our feet dictates the loft I'm going to present with the golf club. So if I did that the other way and I said I wanted less loft, now you can see that's pointed over in this area. Therefore, that golf ball would be further back in my stance, and that would change the loft and make it lower. So if I want to change the distance by shortening the distance, I would go towards the additional loft, which in turn has put the ball further forward.
Right.
And if I wanted to get a little more out of that 7-iron than what it is, I want to try to push it towards the length of my 6-iron, I may take some loft away from it, still standing where this point's in my 1-inch left of center for me as a right-handed golfer, made my 7-iron more loft like a 6-iron, and thus it would go a bit further. So we can adjust the ball position that can change, shortening the distance, and we can change that ball position to increase the distance.
What's a common problem that you see with players and ball position in retrospect to what you just talked about? Because what I often see, and I mean, you did a great job in describing that, where I'll see them moving their position so far, like for instance, moving the ball back, let's say, or moving the club in such a way that the ball is technically further back. I see them moving it so much, and I think they misunderstand that. And I think the way you described it is perfect. But how do you avoid that? Because that's an issue that comes up a lot too, where I see people moving that ball so far back, thinking, okay, I'm going to hit lower and I'm going to get more, I'm going to turn my 7 into 6-iron or 6-iron into 5-iron, whatever the case may be. And ultimately what they ended up doing is now they're not really doing it correctly, and they're coming in and hitting in so steep. So how do they prevent that?
Well, I think it comes back to if they do the adjustment based on the golf club. And if I'm always pointing this at my reference on me, and again, from myself, it's about 1 inch to the left of center. A brand new golfer, I would start them where that's at their middle. And somebody who needed to turn through the golf shot, it might be a little bit further forward than mine. And so if we put our golf club down and I wanted to move the ball back in my stance, and I said, I'm going to take a little loft away to do that. Now, when I stand to that golf club there, that kind of looks good. But if I said I'm going to put it way, 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 way back, now all of a sudden that golf club doesn't look like it's going to do what I need it to do.
Right.
And so the issue is they get to this sort of a thing by addressing themselves to the ball.
Right.
And what I prefer is to aim the club with the loft I want to hit the ball with, and then stand myself to the golf club.
Gotcha.
Because nobody is going to set that golf club down and go like this.
Right.
That just doesn't make sense. But they may do it like that, and that would put it pretty far back in their stance.
Right.
And I don't know that I would de-loft a 7-iron more than that right there as anyway.
Right.
So by addressing, and I like to aim the golf club, and then I stand to the golf club, that positions me correctly to the ball. And people get in trouble when they address the golf ball.
Right.
Oh, I've got to put the ball forward in my stance. And the next thing you know, their driver's out past their lead foot, closer to the target than their lead foot. But if they address the club and they look at that golf club and then stand to the club, they're not likely to put it way out of position.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted you to just touch on that a little bit, because I know that exactly the explanation you just gave is exactly what a lot of amateur golfers do, is they set up to the ball and not to the golf club. And, I wanted you to sort of make that distinction so that people have a better understanding of that. Consistency or consistent swing path as well. And it sounds very simple, but especially through the impact zone is obviously another point that's essential for accuracy and distance. And, it sounds very simple, being consistent through impact, but again, we know how this game works, and, probably 80-90% of the people still struggle with what we're talking about. So talk about that as well. How can we address that, and how does that play a role in distance control?
Well, we need to apply the golf club with the intended relationship of the face relative to the path. And going back to our normal stock shot, and I suppose if we were a robot, that would mean that the club face, this portion here, would be moving and looking in exactly the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
And in golf lingo, that would be on a path that I'm going to turn here to the side, is from around me over here to around me over here. And in golf language, we would call that from the inside to the inside. And there would be a short time frame where that club face is looking at the target and the club is moving at the target.
Right.
Let's call that ideal robotic. Now, if I get it coming from the inside and the club face were open to that, one, my ball would fly to the right, but that would cause additional loft to the golf club. And the additional loft to the golf club sends ball higher, which in turn sends it shorter.
Mm-hmm.
In that scenario, it's higher, shorter to the right. Now, if I had it moving from outside to inside, or as a right-handed golfer to the left, I could still apply it with a club face open to that path.
Right.
And that would have the club moving downward. That path would be moving downward. And with additional loft, ball would go higher.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a nicer pair because that ball is going to start over here and bend back to the target.
Right.
That one works pretty good. But the one that's from the in to out, it's added loft as well, but that one's starting right and going further right. So getting the right combination of the face relative to the path is critical. A nice pair, swing it to the left as a right-handed golfer with added loft, ball starts left, curves to the right. If I were swinging to the right and I started to close the face to that path, now that thing's going to do this. And when I'm closing the face, that's taking loft away from it, which sends the ball further. Right. So another way to change our distance beyond what we've described is, just as you said there, change the path, but more importantly, change the relationship of the face relative to that path.
Right.
Add distance, perhaps ball's a little further back, which in turn causes us to swing more from the inside, but from the inside with the face closing, added distance.
Right.
Swinging to the left with perhaps a ball more forward, with the face now opening, higher and shorter. Another way to change that distance. Going back to what I was saying earlier of using the short game setup to dictate what the ball is going to do, if I move the ball slightly forward and I added some loft, that may in turn have me hitting similar to the splash shot in the bunker, a good lie in the bunker.
Right.
Or perhaps what some people call a flop shot. I'm not a fan of that label because that, to me, implies failure.
Right.
So I continue to call it a splash shot.
Right.
So added loft, change that path, higher, softer, maybe more spin, put it back in your stance, more like chipping, and let that face do that sort of a thing, lower, and it would get more distance as a result of it. All of these things are dictated, though, that we have to remember by where the ball's sitting. What's the lie? What does it allow me to do? And that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole number. Yeah, it's a whole number conversation. Yeah, I mean, I just want people to get a general idea when we have these discussions. I mean, obviously, we're going to, and trust me, throughout the year, we're going to get into more uneven lies and things and how to handle those type of scenarios. Because, again, very few golfers ever get the perfect lie except for on the driving range. So, we want to address those as well. And we may throw some of these topics that we're talking about earlier into some of those more, and again, this is going to be really for more of not so much, I don't want to say serious player, but the more accomplished players that really need to understand it. Because if you're not hitting the ball very well on that kind of stuff, it really isn't for you at that point, because you need to be a little bit more consistent. I mean, obviously you're going to be faced with it, but there's some things that you need to work on before we address that with you. But there's definitely a lot of our better, more seasoned players out there that could use some help with uneven lies and things like that. So we're definitely going to get into that in future discussions. And then the last one, as we just get ready to sort of wrap up here, and that is, as we've talked about earlier, is practice, and obviously visualization is something important. And I'm a firm believer, depending on where if you're at home, if you've got the opportunity to have a full-length mirror, to look at things and see and, look at different positions. If you're practicing on the range, maybe you have the added benefit of a launch monitor, have access to a launch monitor with your local pro that you're working with, or simulator can also help do that to help feel the distances. What do you think about that? And again, this is something we've talked about before. We've touched on some things that can help with distance control. But the main reason really we want to be able to have that is because you're going to be faced with situations where you're in between clubs, or it doesn't require a full shot for whatever reason. So what are your thoughts here? How do we go about practicing it? And do you agree with some of the things I just said, is, using a mirror, using a launch monitor and that, because we need to know how far we're hitting each club in order to be able to, and under different circumstances. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. 100%. All of those things are beneficial. In fact, I believe that this arena of practice, launch monitors have had the greatest influence in the success of players. I have heard of people simply buying a launch monitor so that they could determine the distance their golf club goes and the spin rate that they put on the golf ball. Solely and 100%, that's all they used it for. They didn't use it for face, path, any of those things. It was purely for distance control. And I'll go back in time when we were younger and there were not launch monitors. The idea of what I mentioned with Tom Kite, have targets out there to hit to and see that you can hit to them. I used to determine my yardages, I would go on the golf course very early in the morning, and I would take 10 golf balls and I put a number on them with a Sharpie, 1 through 10. And I would hit that ball. I would stand at the 150-yard marker, and I'd hit that ball, and I'd make a note on my pad. That one was an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10. And then I'd hit number 2, and that was a 3. And I hit number 3, and that was a 9. Right. And then when I went up on the green, I found those numbered golf balls, and I saw where they were in relation to the middle of the green. And that's how I learned and determined my distance there. Right. So I think it's extremely important to work on those distances. I love to take students out to the range, and let's say we're going to the practice green and setting them at 10-yard increments and have them hit 5 shots. And let them see that they are doing it. Okay, here's how we're going to do it. We are at 50 yards, and your skill set and strength, a halfway back, halfway through 58-degree wedge should go that distance. Let's hit 5 shots from here and see how we're doing. And I might hold, if you have someone to practice with, have them take alignment sticks and hold them out there and put them at the level you want the backswing and through swing to go. And then you have to swing under those. And then maybe they take it a little bit further and that sort of thing. So any kind of different things, if you can have a launch monitor, wonderful thing. And there are launch monitors out there that you can purchase for a couple $100 that can give you distance, that can give you spin. And if that's all you need, goodness, you can do a lot of good work with very inexpensive launch monitors to learn that distance.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and that's a great point. I was going to mention that as well. I actually have one, but there's a lot of mobile launch monitors now that are very, very effective. Some of them have been out in the market for a while, newer ones coming out and that. And I mean, strongly encourage people. Again, I'm not asking you to break the bank or anything, but if you practice with a buddy, maybe you guys can chip in, and if you don't want to spend a lot of money, you can chip in together. If you practice a lot together and save some of the costs, and say, hey, we go up to the range all the time together anyways, let's chip in for one of these mobile launch monitors if you don't want to spend too much money. But nowadays the technology, I mean, it's so much more effective than it was. I mean, I did similar to you. I had to shag a lot of my balls with my dad, and we'd get out there and have the shag bag, and of course I was the one shagging, he was the one hitting, but until I got enough that I could hit it with any consistency, and so his was a little easier to shag, but yeah, you had to do whatever you did at that time. But now they have all kinds of technology out there. But yeah, great conversation, and thank you for bringing some of these points out. If you want to give the audience an opportunity to find out if they want to reach out to you, if they've got questions, and or actually, what you might want to do is give them an opportunity to reach out because you've been providing some great videos for our premium members at golftipsmag.com, both in the website and also on our YouTube channel. If they've got some tip ideas that they want you to cover, maybe you can give them some information how they can best contact you and either work with you and maybe give you some tip suggestions as well.
Yes, I would love any suggestions. I'm always racking my brain for new ideas for your different opportunities here. So yes, if you have any ideas, thoughts of what you might want to see, I can be reached at J Endicoot. So the first initial of my first name followed by my last name at pgahq.com. And I'd love to hear from anybody with ideas, thoughts, questions that I might be able to answer, elaborate on what we talked about today. As always, Ted, it's a joy to be on the show with you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I love having you on the show. I love having you contributing to Golf Tips as well. I appreciate all that you've done since coming on board a few years ago, and I know we'll continue to do some great work. And for those of you who want to get some good tips on distance control, you can watch the earlier segment that we just finished, that we're just wrapping up a little bit later on. I'll tell you how you can do that at the end of the show, how you can go and get that and hear some great advice from one of the best in the business. But on that note, Jim, thank you very much as always. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to initiate our travel segment. My good friend Robert Kaufman is going to be joining me as my special travel guest and host as well.
Improve your putting with the Alignment Ball Marker, a revolutionary new in-game putting alignment tool and ball marker. Its patented design allows you to reach your putt and adjust your alignment at the same time by using your putter, which improves your accuracy and makes the process of putting faster. 100% legal according to the USGA, by their definition, permitted under the rules of golf. Winner of Best New Product at the PGA Show and only $9.99 on Amazon. And it's also completely customizable for any golf event or as a promotional giveaway. Order at alignmentballmark.com.
Welcome back, everybody, and very, very excited to initiate our travel segment tonight. And I'm super excited to have a couple of great guests. Of course, my good friend Robert Kaufman, co-host and travel expert, is going to be coming back and speaking with our special featured travel guest tonight. And let me tell you a little bit about both. Of course, Robert is an award-winning photographer, golf and travel writer, golf media consultant. He's worked with a number of great publications such as Troon Golf and Travel Magazine, PGA Magazine, and Golf Tips Magazine, along with a host of others. If you want to see more of his great work, you can visit his website, pictureperfect.com. Also, tonight, our special travel guest is Blake Froling. He is the PGA and general manager at Gamble Sands. He began his career back in golf when he was just a young lad of about 16, picking up range balls in his earlier days. And after attending the Golf Academy of America back in 2009, he steadily advanced through the associate professional roles across the Pacific Northwest before heading south to San Diego and then Orange County. He served as the director of sales and marketing and revenue manager at Monarch Beach Golf Links, sharpening his expertise in hospitality, branding, and revenue strategy. He now leads as general manager at Gamble Sands, where his background in revenue management and marketing align perfectly with the resort's growth ambitions. So please welcome Blake Froling, and of course, Robert, as always, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, Ted. That's a great intro.
Yeah.
Not sure where to go from there, but Yeah, thanks, Ted.
Yeah, we'll just end the segment right now. That was just...
Yeah, that's all our audience needs to know, just about us.
Right.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is just, for those of you that have tuned in for a while, you know, kind of how this segment works is I turn it over to my good friend, and he's going to speak with our travel guest, and then he'll prompt me when he's ready for me to come back. And I'm going to stick around, just listen to the conversation, of course. But Robert, I'm going to turn the mic over to you and go ahead. And Blake, again, welcome to the show.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Blake, great to see you. And thanks for your time, for coming on here. I was excited to get you here because I had a chance to visit up there last year, and I was blown away. I wasn't sure where I was going up there for a while, but all of a sudden, boom! It just hits you right in the face. And I'll tell you, I can't wait to get back now that you have the new course open. But first, what I want you to do is give us a sense of where you're located. Because now that I've had a chance to visit, I've come to learn in the spirit of other remote golf destinations like Bandon Dunes, Sand Valley, Streamsong. With the opening of your new course, Gamble Sands is developing into one of the most go-to destinations and putting Central Washington on the map.
Yeah, that's right. You called it Central Washington. So yeah, we're in the middle here. We're on this side of the mountains. So we get the desert side of things. So most folks come here thinking the Pacific Northwest and trees and rain, and couldn't be farther from where we're at here.
Right.
If you didn't know any better, but yeah, about 4 hours east of Seattle and 2.5 hours west of Spokane. So
Okay.
nothing too crazy, and getting here is part of the adventure. So we
Exactly. Yeah. So give us a brief history on really how these courses came about. You've been around. I know Gamble Sands came on the scene a little over a decade ago. But before that, it was all apple orchards and cornfields. So
yeah, I mean, there was just sagebrush and sand up here, and who would have thought that sand is good for golf? But they had a different site plan early on, and the family who owns this resorts kind of plans, and this is, I don't know how you could see this place any different than what it is as a golf resort. So it's amazing to think that there's places like this that still exist in the world that people don't know about until 10 years ago, but it's beautiful up here. And I'm actually glad that you've been up here and have seen it, because pictures don't do it justice. So it's
no,
beautiful.
not at all.
Yeah.
Now you realize how remote you are when you get up there. Because like I
Yeah.
said, it took me, I was staying at another area a couple hours away, and I just kept, like everybody, you keep driving, and you're thinking, where is this place? And
Yeah, I remember when I came here and interviewed, and that was what I was thinking too. I'm refreshing the GPS, thinking that I'm in the wrong spot, but that's part of this. And I think it's interesting over the last 10, 20 years that's become almost a good thing, is kind of disconnecting from the world. And, when our internet goes out here, it's not that big a deal because people are disconnected anyway. They want to get away. They want to feel like they're on vacation. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So the story there, I mean, typically at some of these other course destinations that I mentioned previously, they bring in like a handful of course architects to, provide a variety of different design styles. But here, you used one architect, David McClay Kidd, to do both golf courses, now with the new one, Scarecrow, Gamble Sands, and the 14-hole course, which I want to get to in a while. But how did that all evolve? I mean, why one architect?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all boils down to trust. The family is been developing land for 100 years and have had multiple different partners and different things. And I think at the end of the day, knowing that David could produce something good, and I think also David originally was a little bit reluctant, but I think from what I can tell over the years, he's always looking to kind of challenge himself. And so I think having him take a crack at this routing again. And, I know he'd made one back in 2012 or something of this piece of land, and, using what he's learned since then and making tweaks to that routing. But at the end of the day, it came down to trust. I think it was pretty low risk, in my opinion, right? Like, he knows the family, he knows the soil, he knows the topography. He'd already made a routing. The quicksands is good. The team knows each other. All of those things, to me, culminated in kind of a low risk project. And, I don't know if that's the right kind of term or idea, but it would have been, he would have had to try to screw this up, I think, to not have it be as good as it is.
Well, he definitely had the portfolio to, support his use there of the design. So no argument there on who you brought in. He's one of the best out there.
Yeah, I think an interesting piece of that was important to the whole thing is the family who owns this, as mentioned, does orchards and all those things and has equipment and irrigation things. And so, on our side, we did all that internally. We did the irrigation and the dirt work, and we had the D8 dozers, and, they brought in a couple specialty pieces of equipment for bunkering, but that's all stuff that normally they have to facilitate. They have to work with the rental companies and get the people to push the dirt. And in this case, they could kind of say, hey, this is what we're looking to do. And our project manager, Tori, just makes it happen. So it's wild to watch.
Right. So no question. You got the complete package. So let's get into the golf courses. I mean, you've got 3 now. Scarecrow is the brand new one on the block, and it just opened. Like I said earlier, Gamble Sands has been around for about 10 years now, I believe.
Yep.
And you've got the 14-hole Quicksands, 14-hole par 3 course. So, I mean, is it fair to say they're all in the style of links courses? Is that what the goal was up there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the soil lends itself to that, just being so firm and fast. And I think the part that was a little unexpected is how firm and fast it could get being in this climate with fescue. And I think we've surprised everybody. And the fairways could be the best on the planet. I mean, they're just so good and so firm. And so throughout the whole property, that maintains its validity. And it's been, over the time of building, like the first course not being exactly known what that turf would do and feel like and play like, as it grew, they built a putting course after that. So, they were able to change the design and the build of some of these, knowing the grassing and the rolling in the hills and what we can and can't mow. That's also another piece that I think a lot of people don't understand that goes into it, is what, a triplex mower can mow and what it can't, and what a walk mower can mow and what it can't. And so, David's team's great at that. And I know David, coming from a superintendent's family, has helped his design style, but that's all part of the process. But yeah, it's all links and it's a blast. I mean, you played Gamble Sands, so you know that big hillsides, big rolling hills, big bounces, long tee shots, that's in everything here. And Quicksands is kind of the X factor there a little bit because it's shorter holes, right? So I think the beauty of Quicksands is that you can have somebody that is just learning how to play, and then you can have a PGA Tour player, and they can both play it, because the tour player might just hit a wedge at the flag, and the other person might just putt it. So you have so much variety there. But as you know, playing Gamble Sands, you can do that out on the course as well.
Yeah, no, that was one of the things that really I enjoyed most, and I like about a lot of courses where you could be 50, 60 yards out and get your putter out.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that because it lends itself to it. I mean, the other thing I loved out there, standing on all those tee boxes, you just really get a sense of the vastness of the property, looking at those large fairways, and it builds confidence in you standing on the tee box and getting ready to hit a driver or 3-wood, whatever it is you pull from the bag. So it does make it fun, and then you can get as creative as your game allows you to.
Yeah, my last round I played over at Gamble Sands, I was playing with somebody that has never played there before, and we're sitting on the par 3 10th hole, and it's, I think, 150 yards back left pin, and there's a slope in front, and there's a hill in back, and me and my other partner standing on the tee, like planning out our shot. We're going to hit our low draw 9-iron. We're going to roll it up off that hill. It's going to come down. And we tried that, and we didn't succeed. And then the other guy just hits a pitching wedge at the flag, and is like, why didn't you guys just hit it at the flagstick? And we kind of looked at each other like, I don't know. Like, I'm not really sure why, but it's, less fun that way, I think. But, yeah.
Now you know, next time. There's all different ways to get to the pin, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess now the big debate is going to be with the new course. I mean, it's going to be lots of comparisons, obviously. I mean, are they? What are some of the major, if there are any, differences?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think we're still learning those as the grass and the property matures. We'll learn more and more of similarities and differences. I mean, off the bat, on the first hole, you see it, you feel it on Scarecrow that it's different than Gamble Sands. A little more dramatic elevation changes, and the greens are a little bit more, let me say, less subtle. And so you see that right off the bat. And I think the beauty of the design to me is like hole 1 and 2, there's no question it's a different golf course. And then you get to holes 3 and 4 and 5, and it kind of brings you back to what you're used to over at Gamble. And some of the subtle differences, there's a couple more forced carries. Not all, there's obviously forward tees that take that out of it, but there's a couple forced carries, and then the slopes are a little less consistent on the scale. There's more humps and bumps within the larger slope, so you have to make sure that you're on the right side of the back hill or the left side of the front hill, or different things like that. There's a couple more pop bunkers that are in play. I think that's attributed to what I mentioned earlier about not knowing how fast and firm Gamble Sands might be. Now that we know how fast it will be, those bunkers are in more strategic spots. And then, out here, out on Scarecrow, it's really important to play the right tee boxes. At Gamble, I think you can get away, and it's fun to play any set of tees because it's fairly wide for a longer portion of the hole. Out here, the fairways are just as wide, but they are kind of they narrow to wide to narrow. So, if you're playing the wrong tees, it kind of hurts you a little bit, I think. So just a few small things, but at the end of the day, the feedback we've heard, my feedback is it's equally as fun and scoreable. It just makes you think a little bit differently, and maybe even more. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And it just takes a little more thinking.
Right.
Which,
No, you want to. That's the whole idea. You want to get out there and think about what club you're going to pull out, where you're going to hit it, and, while at the same time make it fun.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Real simple.
Yeah, it's exciting to see the back and forth already, right? You go into the bar at night and you hear this group thinks this and this group thinks that, and I think looking back in time, and there was a lot of times I was kind of a fly on the wall for some of these conversations between David and ownership, or irrigation design team and them, and they kept saying that if anyone after this argues which one's better, we did our job, because Gamble we know is certified, it's good. So if people are even questioning which one they think is better, job done.
So again, I don't want to make it sound like it's impossible to get there, but it is remote, and given that that it is, I mean, where have you seen the majority of your golfers coming from so far? I mean, is it primarily Seattle, Portland, the Northwest area?
Yeah. I mean, with one golf course, over the last 10 years, that's definitely the majority of the market. We've did a little analysis, and it was 65%, from within 6 hours, which includes Portland, Spokane, Seattle. Over the years, we started to see that change a little bit and grow and get bigger. And even the last year or two, we've seen a difference with just even when we announced the new course, right? I think it sparks a credibility to, hey, if they're building another one, obviously the first one's got to be good, or it's got to be a good experience. But the other big piece of that is just living on these lists, right? These top 100 lists, or people are just coming to check it off the list. And I think the beauty that we've found here is that people want to play it again. It's not, you might go to another golf course and it's top 100 and it's incredible and the grass is perfect, but you get beat up a little bit, or the rough is 6 inches long, or whatever. You may not be like, hey, I want to play this every day for the rest of my life. But I think people here, they want another crack at it. It's fun, enjoyable. And so, we've developed over 10 years a culture of having people back, and we have these big groups that come every year from all over the place.
Right. And now you've got some nice stay and play packages. You've got the inn there, right? How many how many accommodations, or how many can you accommodate there?
Yes, we have 77 rooms, 141 beds. So quite a few beds. And, we just got done building an additional lodge, which is all double king units. So it's 40 double king rooms. So ultimate kind of variety for groups that maybe want one single person in each room. At least they get a king bed versus, right now you might have to get in a double queen, even though we're, trying to move things around. But yeah, we have 37 rooms down here overlooking the putting course, pool, and then the new lodge overlooks 14 holes of the Scarecrow. So you really get a great view of everything going on over there until that, and until Scarecrow. I mean, there's nowhere you can see golf from. I mean, you can see half a hole from the restaurant, and you can't see any golf from the current lodge. And so it's kind of been a hidden mystique that, you don't really know what you're getting into till you get out there. And so people playing Scarecrow, they want to go stare at hole one for a little bit and kind of think through it before they play it. And, you see hole 2 and hole 3 and hole 4, and you see all these holes over there. So it's pretty cool, kind of yin and yang for lodging. And then who knows what's down the road.
Right.
Yeah.
So great for buddy trips, obviously. I mean, what do you want golfers to take away? They come there for a couple nights and
I
play
think,
both courses, or everything.
Play a little bit of everything and pick your vacation. One thing I'm most excited about, I think, over the next few years is to see how people like to plan their trip. Because you got to come here once and, okay, here are those units, here are these units. Oh, I like this course, or I like that course. The
Right.
first year, we won't really get a good analysis of that because everybody's going to try the new stuff.
Right.
But when they come back and they say, oh, no, we really want to stay in these rooms, and we really want to play this course twice instead of this course twice. And I'm excited for that. But I think ultimately our goal here at Gamble Sands is to host those groups better than anyone else could do in our market, in our competitive set, because our, who we hold our standards to are big fish, right? The Bandons and Sand Valleys, the Stream Songs, and
Right.
by hosting some events that have been out there, I go out there Bandon every year. So trust me, I love that place.
No, I was just up there a couple months ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, but at some point you kind of just feel like you're a number, working through the system there. And so it's really important to us to have more of a personal experience and make sure that the groups and the group coordinator feel appreciated. It's a lot of work putting together a trip like that. And you're putting down your credit card and you're wrangling all the people and you're doing this and that. So we really try to make sure it's as easy as possible for them. So maybe their group of the 15 guys that came may have had a whatever experience, but the guy who puts it all together, that's the person that you got to make sure has a good time, because their trip can be ruined before they even get here because we didn't charge them the right rate, or we got them this, or we booked them the wrong this. So we really take pride in that. And it's important to me, and I know it's important to our staff.
No, that's you're so right. I mean, that's key to today's world of golf travel. So, Ted, you want to jump in? You got anything you want to learn about Gamble Sands?
You know what? I think you guys did a great job, but I do have just a couple of thoughts I wanted to share. I think, Blake, what you were saying is exactly right. I think you want to make sure that the person that's really organizing, because I've done that myself. I've had to be the organizer, and I know it can be tough wrangling the guys, and especially getting them to fork up the money.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing. But, you want them to have a good time in that. And, I was looking at, prior to tonight's show, I was looking on the website, and we're going to give that here in just a second, and just looking at it. And, again, if you are somebody that really enjoys and wants to be challenged playing link style courses, I mean, you guys have really hit it out of the park. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous properties. And it's just interesting to see how, how the architect has taken that landscape and just made it into a beautiful. What I was going to ask you, though, is because it is very open, but you do have mountains around. What is the wind like there? Do you get, because you're not coming off, the ocean's not right there or what have you, but do you get some trade winds coming in at all, or any sort of or is it pretty much you're isolated in around behind the mountains?
Yeah, I think people think it probably would be windier than it is. Typically our wind season, for lack of a better term, would be like mid-April. And then, October 5th through the 30th. Sure, every now and then something will pop up and coming through here, but we're in kind of a weird zone where we're up above the river, and so some things pass us. But in general, our weather here is awesome. Obviously going to Scotland, Ireland, Bandon, Sand Valley, everyone's got seasons and different things, but for the most part, we're 90 degrees from May 31st to September 30th, and you're not going to have an issue with a lot of weather.
Yeah.
So you're good all year round.
Yeah, it's pretty good all year round. Not a lot of precipitation.
Yeah, that's nice too. A lot of people, like that consistency too, so that you're not having to sort of be pigeonholed into a very short season like that.
Yeah.
And that's good. And, it sounds like to me from what you just said, it's more early spring and maybe later fall that you might, get some wind here. But other than that, it's pretty much perfect conditions.
Yeah.
So the website is gamblesands.com. And if somebody wants to book, you've got a great team up there that's going to be able to help put a package together for them and show them a really good time. And I know, Robert, as you said, you had a great time when you went up there, and I'm sure you're going to go back now that you've got some more other golf opportunities to play, and maybe you'll do better on that par 3 he talked about earlier. So, and Blake, you got to get out there, prize. But I want to thank you for coming on and explaining a little bit about Gamble Sands. And I think the best thing for people to do is to go to their website, do a little exploration yourself, reach out to the folks there at Gamble Sands and have a conversation. They'll set you up right with a great buddy trip, or even if it's a couple that wants to get out there and just play some golf together. But go to gamblesands.com to get all the information there. Blake and of course, Robert, thank you very much for joining me. Welcome back, everybody, to Golf Talk Live. I'm very, very excited to have tonight's featured guest, Bobby Steiner. He is the Director of Golf Instruction for Horseshoe Bay Resort in Texas. Let me tell you a little bit about him, and then we'll get right down to tonight's discussion. So as I mentioned, he is the Director of Golf Instruction for Horseshoe Bay Resort, and he has had an incredible career as a golf instructor. He began his career back in '96 in Asheville, North Carolina. Then in 1999, Bobby moved to Palm Springs, California to serve as head teaching professional at the Westin Mission Hills Resort, Gary Player signature course. Bobby spent nearly 2 decades at the Westin, working one-on-one with thousands of golfers of all levels and thousands more through Golf Digest and the ESPN Golf Schools. And as I mentioned, he's currently the director of golf instruction at Horseshoe Bay Resort in Texas, where his knowledge of the game is as evident as his passion for teaching. So, Bobby, welcome to Golf Talk Live.
Yeah, it's so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. We have had, obviously, Horseshoe has been on the show. We've had some guests before from here, but we have not had you on here. And I'm really, really excited because as a fellow teach professional, I've always liked to pick their brains. I think it's always good to get a little bit. So let me start this off. I think the simplest way is we get a little bit of understanding of your professional career and where things sort of started. But when was your first recollection? When did you first sort of take up the game as a youngster, or what age were you when you first learned to play golf?
No, I came on pretty late as aspiring teaching professionals go. I was 20 before I ever touched a club. So I'm unique in that I remember as an adult shooting over 100. And I put down the entire world and decided I was going to become a golf professional. And, you don't get a lot of support whenever you're quit college and you're telling everybody you're going to be a golf pro and you can't break 100 yet. But I waited tables at night and I played golf all day. I was the first person on the golf course. And if I didn't have to work that night, I'd be the last person to leave. I did that for 8 years until I took my player ability test. Passed that. I got in the PGA program and started teaching. And that's in 96. So it's been a great journey. It's been I just can't imagine doing anything else, and I'm so glad that I dropped the rest of the world for golf.
What is it about the game that we always hear, and it's sort of cliche, I guess, a little bit. We always hear, you hit that one beautiful shot, and it just brings everybody back. But what was it for you about the game that really appealed to you? I mean, obviously you're in the profession now, but when you first started playing the game, as well as I do, it can be pretty darn frustrating for a lot of folks out there. But what was it about the game that really appealed to you? What was the challenge of it? What was it that just sort of spoke to you and said, I want to be a part of this?
I couldn't believe how exceedingly difficult it was. And here's the thing about golf that's different than every other game, it seems to me, is the contrast, the difference between your best shot and your worst shot. If someone's teaching you to do a back flip off the high dive, the first time you do it from that point forward, you can always do it. But just because you make a 6-foot putt today has no bearing whatsoever on the next 6-footer. And so it's maddening, but it's that's what makes the good shots so rewarding is just because right around the corner there's no guarantee after 17 great holes that the next hole won't be absolutely disgraceful. And so one must always be on the lookout for oneself and be ready to play and bring it in. One little lapse in concentration is enough to lead to utter rout. And so I just found the challenge back then and still to this day the most rewarding aspect of it.
It's funny that you say that because I've had the pleasure of interviewing a lot of professionals, some players as well. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody describe it as eloquently as you just did right now of exactly what people experience playing this game, because you're right. You can make that 6-foot putt and you're thinking, wow, I'm just, this is great. And the next day, you can't make a 3-foot putt. And you're saying, well, what happened to the guy that was, at the golf course yesterday? Same thing, with your, shots off the tee. You get up to the first tee in day one and you're having a great time and you're hitting some good drives. And then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 holes down, the wheels fall off the bus and you can't seem to put anything together. So it can be maddening, but it again, not to sound cliche, but that one good putt or that one good shot off the tee is enough to bring a lot of people back. And some people find it on the range, some people find it on the golf course, but nevertheless, we wouldn't be in business if they didn't. So it makes it interesting. I didn't mention, and I want to bring this out a little bit more about you, and then we're going to get into obviously Horseshoe and that as well. But you've authored 4 books, and I want you to talk a little bit about that. And then you're also the creator of the Perfect Swing Tempo Tuner training system. I want you to talk a little bit about that. I think it's always important, when I have fellow professionals on that have worked to make this game easier for the rest of us out there. I wanted to give you a chance to talk and brag a little bit about that if you want. So talk about the books. What are the books about? Are they all golf related, or are they a little mixture?
3 of the 4 are golf related. The first book, so I first started writing a column called Golf, Heart, and Soul. That was back in 2001, April 2001, for the Palm Springs Daily paper. And after about a year, what I did was I told stories. I had characters with whom I walked the golf course. This was sort of fictional stories, all to teach golf. And after about a year, other papers started picking it up, and other papers started picking it up. And pretty soon, I had a lot of papers across the country. And then soon a literary agent from New York called and said, "Hey, Bobby, love that one. What you write? Let's put the book together." And so my first book, Muni, came out in 2004. And that was a lot of fun. I got to travel at Nordstrom. Actually, I was the only my book Muni was the only book that they carried in their entire store in the men's sections, in all 152 stores. And that was a wonderful thing. Golf America magazine called it Golf Book of the Year in 2005, and that was a wonderful experience. Since then, I've had another book called. Let's see. This is I subtitled it It's called My Little Book of Practice Games, subtitled Short Game Mastery, and it's basically it's a handbook on how to with 20 different practice games and a score sheet that goes with that. But also got another book called The Little Book of the Big Success, and it's a takeoff of it's motivational speech that I first gave here at Horseshoe Bay Resort back in 2019, and since has grown. And that's been a fun book too. But it's more inspirational. I think whenever COVID hit, in particular, we were all a little bit restricted in what we could do. That served as a real inspiration to branch out a little bit. But golf is my thing, and in terms of the perfect swing tempo system, it became clear to me a long time ago that you've got to get a hold of yourself and putting a confident, relaxed swing on a golf ball before anything else will ever work. All the mechanics in the world, all the understanding of mechanics and the rudiments of form do you no good whatsoever if you don't have the ability to relax, if you can't make a good, confident swing, the mark of which is a balanced, relaxed finish. And so that the perfect swing tempo system is all about kind of teaching a little bit in reverse. And that is, hey, let's start with a relaxed, balanced finish. I'll never forget Jackie Burke Jr., who just passed away last year at age 100. In his book, he talked about the need. He said if you brought up different people like Ernie Els and Fred Couples and Gene Littler from way back when, and ask what phrase comes to mind when you think of these type players. Well, most people say, oh, tempo or rhythm or this or that, but rarely will they say balanced. And he's saying, and his argument was, and I think it's great, is that you get rhythm and tempo by being committed to balance. If you're balanced, perfectly balanced, and that is completely balanced and relaxed at your finish, then the tempo, the rhythm is something you'll get for free. And so that's been a real rewarding thing and an eye-opener for a lot of people to find out that they can hit the ball farther in many cases by simply relaxing and learning to allow the club to swing.
And I think something that we've learned in the business here in the last probably decade or so is that the swings are different for everybody. We've started to have a better understanding that no one swing fits all. I mean, obviously there's certain components of the golf swing, club face at impact and that sort of thing that are consistent with even the best players. I mean, you look at somebody like Lee Trevino, you mentioned a couple, Ernie Els and Freddie Couples. You look again, their swings are somewhat different. Freddie and Ernie have a much more relaxed and sort of smooth approach. Lee had a little bit different, an awkward approach to the game, but they all had the same core fundamentals were the same. How do you as a professional recognize from player to player, and I'm talking about amateur players, forget the pros for right now, but amateur players, how do you recognize, okay, this is not going to work for you, but this is going to work for you? How do you differentiate? What do you look for first, I guess, is the best way to approach that?
Well, let me sort of answer what I thought you were going to ask for just a moment. That is, sometimes people come in here and say, I want to swing like Ernie Els, or I want to to learn this move that I saw Tiger, and I have to let them know right away that
ain't going to happen.
You can't. One should never mistake nuances for fundamentals. We see this one thing that I'll never forget after the 2003 Masters when Weir won. I think it was 2003. You may remember he's left-handed. He had that little thing where he would go to the halfway point and then come back. And then he won the Masters, and he won the green jacket. On Monday morning, I look out on the range there at the Gary Player course, and there are about 9 people out there, and 4 of them are doing that. Now, they're all right-handed, but they're doing the same thing. They're looking at their backswing as if there was some magic that might wear off that Mike Weir had that earned him the green jacket. If they just did that same little nuance, people often latch on to nuances and mistake them for some fundamentals. And I've got to make that clear that while there are certain characteristics that every great player possesses, there are nuances that make them different, and it's important that we understand that those are 2 different things. And so, to get to your actual question, though, I look at the club face to begin. It's a little different with a beginner. You've got to find out what other games they've played and what their experiences are, and what they, even with limited experience, oftentimes they've already looked on YouTube and have some idea of what it is they're trying to do. In other words, what are you trying to do with this golf ball? And let's talk about what you should do. Square club face will go a long way. And that is, if a person has a super weak grip and therefore leave all their shots out to the right, well, now they're going to swing over the top to try to guide that thing to the left. And, you can't clear anything up till you can clear up that club face, which is the cause, and all those other things are the effect. And so you got to look at it. But yet some people come with a good grip and they have other issues. Maybe it's posture. Right. Oftentimes people think they're lined up at the target. They're lined, 30 yards to the right. Well, that's going, the danger there is not that they're going to hit it 30 yards right. The danger is they're going to find a way to get it back to the hole. And therefore, develop a swing that's just as flawed as their setup. And so, it's case by case, but it is a puzzle that I never tire of putting together. I mean, it's a 1-hour thing where I've got them in here. Now I'm in the, we've got our indoor studio. I've got TrackMan. I've got all these things. Now they can see themselves. For 25 years, I taught without that, and so you've got to be a pretty good salesman when you don't have video. And what I mean by that is most people can't feel what it is you're telling them and identifying as their swing fault. And so when you tell them they're doing so-and-so and they just simply can't feel it, there has to be some buy-in. And with the video analysis we have now, it's wonderful. So I can say, here it is. See that line? You need to be a little closer to this line. Oh, and with each successive swing, they see themselves getting closer and closer and closer. And so I've always loved teaching, but I love it even more now.
Yeah, the visual component in golf instruction has really been a game changer for years, because again, you can explain and try to articulate until the cows come home. And there are some people that can manage to understand that. But I think a good majority, I think you're exactly right. I think a good majority of people need to visually see what you're talking about. And say, okay, yeah, that makes sense now. Now I understand what you're trying. And I'm one of those people. Even though I teach, I'm very, conscious of the fact that I need to demonstrate and let people see, whether it's through the video that we've taken or through even my own demonstration of what it is I'm trying to get across to them. Because just talking, in front of them, it's almost like their eyes are rolling in the back of their head, because they're just not understanding it. So you have to be able to do that in video, and obviously the technologies you said with and we're going to talk about that now, but that your academy at Horseshoe Bay has. So let's brag about that a little bit. You guys got a world-class facility up there. So let's talk about the Golf Academy at Horseshoe Bay.
We had our soft opening in December and then our grand opening in March of this year. And, they built it and put it together in one calendar year. Started in January and got it together by December. And it's absolutely beautiful. I've been the guest instructor at other academies. I've been to and visited other places, but none that top this one. And I'm so excited. So we've got two indoor bays, both we're in partnership with Callaway Golf. And so both equipped with TrackMan technology and also a Callaway custom fitting studio and all that. And then we have 8 outdoor covered hitting bays that run east to west, which means what? That means they are always covered because the sun's going straight overhead and always right in line with it. So it's always in the shade, always has a breeze. So even when it's 99 degrees a day, I've got people out there hitting and no one's even breaking a sweat. I love it. And then we've got a monster Zoysia tee out front, which the grass is just, it's so nice to have that as well as a laser Zoysia putting surface and some bunkering, and it's just a great place. So I teach golf schools, 1, 2, and 3 day golf schools. That's the thing that I've been looking for. I've been here for 7 years, and we've just now built the academy. My background before that was working for at the West of Mission Hills with Golf Digest schools, ESPN golf schools, Troon Institutes, and so my passion, my history has always been teaching golf schools. That is, people coming, vacationers from far away, and teaching it. So now I can finally do it. And I've just been living in this dream world for the last 7 years going, there's going to be a day when we get to do this again. And finally it's come.
Yeah. And when you have the right tools it makes obviously your job so much easier, and having the state of the art equipment. And I noticed in some of the notes I was reading, you have obviously offer club fitting and things like that in a club repair room, and you guys have fondly labeled that the dirty room. Tell us a little bit about that. How did that come about?
Oh, we had club repair on site here for all this time, and it was kind of just a little side area. Now it's part of the teaching academy, and so Ed, who's also a Callaway certified club fitter, he does all the club repair, so it's full service. We've got a pretty big membership, something like 1,700 golf members, in addition to everybody else, and there's somebody snapping a shaft just about every single day. So it's nice to have a place to bring them. There's no gray area. They know exactly where to come and get it fixed and patched up right.
What do you obviously want to have a well-rounded experience for members and obviously resort guests, when they come, to Horseshoe Bay. But what is it that you want them to take away from that? I mean, obviously you've got some world-class golf, and you've got obviously incredible facilities to offer. But when they're coming up there for somebody that's never been there before, what is it besides the wow factor? What is it that you want them to take away from that experience, and obviously hope that they're going to come back again? And I'm sure a lot of them do. But what is it when you're thinking about that and you're speaking with a guest or something for the first time, what is it you want them to take away from their experience at Horseshoe?
So it's funny you ask that. When I was first sort of recruited for this position, I thought I knew about every 72-hole facility in the country. If you asked me, I would have said, oh, yeah, there have been any, particularly real design course with Robert Trent Jones Sr. and Jack Nicklaus like we have here. Mm-hmm. But I hadn't heard of Horseshoe Bay. And then I'm going, Texas, Horseshoe Bay, what's that? Near Corpus Christi? What bay are we talking about? Well, we're on Lake LBJ here. I just hadn't heard of it. And nor did I know about the special place that this hill country is. Have you been out here, Ted? Have you been to the
I have not. I'm planning on coming next year. So, yeah. That's why I'm asking you.
If someone just dropped you here and sort of took off the blindfold and says, what country do you think, what state do you think you're in? Texas would not be at this. Right. The land remains as nature shaped it, and it's green and it's rolling, and these beautiful golf courses. Now, I've played some courses, some Robert Trent Jones Sr. courses along the way. The golf, the golf trail in Alabama and all that.
Played it.
I had to play 2 of the 3 of the courses there and thought he was a good designer, but it's not. But it's only after being here that I truly appreciate, particularly these courses, because we have Ramrock that is tough. And one of my, Bill Pelham, who's a former PGA Tour player, told me, he said, oh, you're moving to Horseshoe Bay, wait till you play Ramrock. That's a tough golf course. And for him to say that, I knew it must be tough. But also a great course. And I don't know how many courses I've played in my life, maybe 300 or 400. It's definitely top 5. It's just a well-designed course. And it's not, I'm not saying that like, aren't I great? This difficult golf course is one that I consider my favorite. It's a fair but challenging golf course. And then Apple Rock, which is picturesque. If someone just dropped you there and you really didn't look at maybe some of the architecture of the home, you would think you were probably in the Shenandoah Valley or maybe the mountains of North Carolina, something like that. It's just, it's green and rolling and hilly, and these elevated tee shots and elevated greens and valleys. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful here in the hill country of Texas. And then Slick Rock, which is the 3rd Robert Trent Jones Sr. course, it offsets the other 2. It's from 1973 is when it opened, and it's only 6,600 yards, and it just doesn't have the teeth of the other 2, but it's still beautiful. And if someone's played here a long time and they say, you say, what's your best score here? And they tell you what their best score, you will assume they probably shot that at Slick Rock, because it's just the easiest of the 3, most user friendly, I suppose. But nonetheless, it's a challenge and it's fun, and it's got the $1 million hole. So beyond that, the other thing, and this speaks to your bigger question about what do I want people to see? When they leave here, they go, what. You had a great experience at Horseshoe Bay. What was it? Well, was it the golf? Yeah, the golf was great, but it wasn't just that. Well, what was it? The marina? Oh, the marina was fun. We went out on jet skis. We spent time on the beach. That was great too, but that's not it. Well, was it the restaurants? Oh, the restaurants were great. We had a different dining experience every night. All kinds of international cuisine. Great. But that's not it either. Well, what was it then? Well, once at the resort, we were treated like the equal of kings. And that is that we mattered, and they showed us the Southern hospitality, and that's how they made their mark. And so, yes, we've got all these wonderful amenities, but people remember the experience and how they're treated. There really is a thing to this Texas, this Southern hospitality that people are shown in Texas and in the South at large. But it's that sort of thing, and I love it because when people come back and they say, I know you saw us last year, but you're going to see us every year because we just haven't found a place like this.
Talk about, and that's an excellent point, because there's a lot of people who probably don't fully appreciate how important the staff, how important the support teams are, and not just for the golf but for the other amenities that the resort offer. And you really sort of laid that out quite well, and that is that it's not just the facility, it's not just the amenities, it's how you're treated, how people welcome you when you're coming into the resort, how they're making sure your needs are met. And that's something that you've been able to experience now for a number of years. And from a golf experience, again, people want to, they're coming there to play. They're going to be challenged, whether they're playing Slick Rock or they're playing, Ramrock or what have you. And, there's going to be a challenge for everybody, which is important. You want to have that diversity and challenge so that there's some for the less accomplished golfers that maybe need a little bit easier course to play. And then there's those that really want to test their mettle out there. How important is that you want to make sure your staff that you have there in the golf side of things, make sure that they're making the most out of that experience for the customer?
This is the phrase that I use with the guys who work for me here at the Golf Academy is, guys, you have an opportunity all day long to make the moment. And that is, you're standing there with somebody, maybe both of you are waiting for a bay to come open or something, but there can be something that you do that makes this individual's moment. Maybe it's ask them where they're from, what kind of golf experiences they've had, where they've been, what they've done, why they're here. And suddenly that 2.5 minutes that they had to wait for something flies by, and they're excited because they got to speak to somebody who could have just remained silent. And you both could have waited, doing absolutely nothing except a little bit of thumb twiddling. So anytime we can make someone's moment, make the moment for someone, it's meaningful, and it carries long beyond this moment. And once the staff sees that and feels that, and it's contagious. Giving good service and going out of your way for somebody and seeing the look on the person's face is something that once you experience that, you really want to feel that all the time. And this is home for all of us. And so I have to remind the guys, hey, it's not home for them. They've been thinking about this for 8 months since they booked this vacation. Pour it on, guys. Pour it on and show them that same level of excitement that you had the first time you came here. And then you'll be right on the mark.
What would you say, and I'm not necessarily looking for a percentage, but I'm just trying to get, for the people that are going to be tuning into this, that give them an idea of sort of the diversity. A lot of golf vacations, golf was typically always sort of the buddy trips, but now you're seeing more couples, more families. Would you say that Horseshoe, since the 7 years that you've been there, that you're seeing more families coming now, and not just so much, I'm not saying there aren't still buddy trips. Are you seeing an increase in that, or is it pretty much the same? Or is it the other way around? Are you seeing more buddy trips as opposed to family? Because obviously you have a lot of amenities there. You touched on a few, and we could talk about some more. But where are you seeing the biggest growth, I guess, is the question I'm asking.
I see it in the family trips. This is a place, because we're 4 hours to Houston, or a little less, depending on where you are in Houston. Less than 4 hours to Dallas, 3.5 hours to Fort Worth, an hour and a half from San Antonio, 1 hour to Austin. There are a lot of places that you don't have to get on from that you don't have to get on an airplane to come here. And so that's great for families. Hey, let's get in the car and let's go. Mom, you're in the spa. Kids, you're in the kids club. We got a great kids club. The kids enjoy it, and they can be there for hours and hours each day, while the parents either go golf, or one goes to the spa and the other play golf, whatever. And all, plus the marina and the pool, and
right.
It's just we've got a floating pool, one of only one in, I don't know, North America or something like that. It's amazing. And so there's just so much here for the family to do. And so I'm sure of that it's more family oriented, but that didn't happen by accident. Those in charge here, those who do, have made this place a much bigger family destination. When you do that, you don't have to cut into the golf. The golf is still great.
Yeah. And I think, again, offering a lot of things that, like the water sports and water activities. You mentioned some fine dining and that, some great dining experiences. And again, the fact that you're literally a short distance from so many major centers in Texas makes it an ideal spot to come, whether it's for a weekend or whether it's for, a family vacation for the summer, what have you. Makes it so that it's, hey, we can just hop in the car and go. It's not that far of a drive. And even if you do want to fly, it's a short flight, to come in there and so again, there's a lot of diversity, a lot of options there. I want to go back to the academy a little bit because you mentioned this, and I want to get you to talk a little bit about this. You said early on that you really enjoy and have enjoyed doing golf schools. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the golf schools. You have, I think you said 1 and 2 and 3 day schools. Is that correct?
Yes, 1, 2, and 3 day schools. So when I started back with the Troon Golf Institute back in the late 90s, we would do 4 hours of instruction in the morning, and then you break for lunch, and then you do 2 hours, a 9-hole playing lesson with them, and then and then a recap and all this sort of stuff. Well, since then, it's become clear to me that that's just too much for some people. They'd like to get some instruction, but one can only internalize so much. There's so many, only so many hours in a day. And so what I've created here has been a golf school where we do 2 hours in the morning, break for lunch, and then we do a 9-hole playing lesson every single afternoon. And so that's either 1, 2, or 3 day. On day one, we do putting and chipping in full swing. That's all with video analysis, of course. And then on day 2, pitching and bunker play and full swing. Again, full swings every day. And then on day 3, recap of those 4 short game areas, as well as unlevel lies, and then full swing as well. And I'm going to tell you something. 2 hours goes by pretty quick when you've got to cover 3 topics. But again, it's that fast-paced thing where it never drags that you're shooting for. And if they want to do another one next year or whenever, they can do so. But I just found in all those years, even back before, we're all in a hurry now. Or at least as a society, we're more in a hurry and ready to.
Right.
People are checking on their phones more, and they just can't put up with downtime. Even 20 years ago, it dragged to do that much, where people just can't learn anymore. You got this aha moment that you discovered with chipping, and now we're doing pitching, and there's the tweak that's a little different. But now I'm confused. These 2 aha moments are in conflict, and so minimize it to a couple of hours, and then they can walk away retaining the most. And so that's what we've done.
Yeah, and that's a great point as well, because I think you're right. I think a lot of people, our time restrictions are much different than what they used to be. I mean, people are working in some cases longer hours. People have more family obligations, and there's just that sort of a faster pace, and people just don't want to spend. I mean, even with golf, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this, and maybe you've already done it, or you're thinking about making some adjustments, but you're seeing people come out and say, as an example, I don't know if I want to play for 4 hours or 5 hours or whatever anymore, and I'd like to play some holes, but I don't even know if I want to play 9. Are you guys looking at that, or do you offer that at this time where resort, and I'm talking about resort guests mainly, but where they're saying, hey, I don't know if I want to do 18 anymore. I want to maybe just do 9 or even, other options, 6 holes. Is that something
in the afternoon, we have a 9-hole rate. I mean, there's no 6-hole rate unless we have something special going on where something's happening. But yeah, in the afternoon we have 9-hole rates. And as it goes, the tee sheet is so, we get a lot of rounds in, and so it's probably not. It's not a good thing for us to have 9-hole rounds going out in the morning, right in the middle of.
No, of course not.
But yeah, in the afternoon, that's certainly something that's offered every single day. And yeah, people are. People want to get on with it and want to fill every single moment. And that's the other thing is, I'm not slighted by that maybe more than 2 hours would be too much. They've got that's the whole reason we have other things to do here at the resort. Fill your time. Yeah. I'll take up 4 hours of it, including our 9-hole playing lesson. After that, I find a lot of people may or may not play golf because, with the golf school, they're free to play for the rest of the day if they choose to. Often 2 buddies who are here on doing the golf school together will go ahead and play. They'll play till dark. That's the whole reason they're here. But a husband and wife will say, you know what, we're going to go over to the beach, and then we're going to go to dinner tonight. So we're done. The golf school's over at 3. We're going to go make the rest of our vacation doing something else. And that's great.
What do you? And this might seem like a rhetorical question, but what do you love most about your job?
Oh, So think of it like here's the thing. If you listen to 2 people sitting at the bar, for instance, talking about golf, And Fred and Joe. Fred says, "Man, I haven't made a putt inside of 6 feet in 2 weeks." And Joe say, "Well, yeah, I haven't hit a fairway." And then he'll say something about his own game. He'll say something about his own game. Neither one of them care at all about the other one's golf game. They're just making this isn't a conversation. This is two guys making loose statements about their own game with no concern whatsoever for the other guy.
Right.
Golfers are like that. It's that kind of game. And so I am that other guy who cares about your game for that time that we're together. And because of that's a very special role and feels quite good to the individual, to the student. Hey, finally, someone's asking me and asking second and third level questions about my experiences. And so I feel what I love about my job. I love how people feel walking out of here because, I'm a teammate. I'm making sure that we addressed exactly what their goals were before designing the lesson, before embarking upon what it is we did. But it feels good to be a teammate. I'm a teammate. And when people send me emails a week later going, "Hey, man, you're not going to believe this. I had a rough round the day after, but the day after that, I shot my best ever." What's better than that? We're all, every single one of us who play golf, it doesn't matter the level, are in it for the same thing. And that is we want a good round for us, whatever that standard is. That's all any of us want. When someone finally makes that putt to beat their friend for the first time ever, that means as much to him as it does when a tour player wins his first tour event. It's what it means to the individual. And it really is apples to apples in that way. So when you keep that in mind and realize that this is a big deal and that you get to be part of that, it's pretty special.
Yeah, I've played with that foursome. That's very competitive. And I mean, you would think you're playing in the Masters, or the U.S. Open or something like that. And they're like, I mean, it's like, come on, just putt the ball. And they're, no, hang on a minute, man. I've got to, and they're lining up for, it seems like forever. And it's like, come on. But, you're right. It again, I think this is why so many people love this game. I mean, you can get out there and struggle like no end. And then all of a sudden you hit that one pure shot and you're right parked up next to the hole, your approach shot, or you get on there and you've got that, 6, 7, 8 foot putt, to make birdie, and it drops in, dead center. And it's like, wow, to finish up a good round. You might have shot 98, but it doesn't matter. That last birdie on 18 just makes you want to come back. And, from an instructor, you're exactly right. You hear a lot of different stories, and it's very rewarding because, as you know, anytime that you work with a student and you're making changes, especially if they've got some, a number of issues to work on, there's always a period that they're going to struggle a little bit. But then all of a sudden they'll have that aha moment, and you'll sit there and they'll say to you, just like you said, he reaches out to you an email or what have you, and he says, well, the next day I had a terrible round, but then one after that, man, everything came together. And that's what you'd want to hear, right?
Oh, and this is part of what you're saying there is this is why the interview process is so important. You've got to know what they have tried in the past. You've got to know what they're thinking. Now, there's some people, unless you ask, you'll never find out that what they're intentionally trying to do is the exact opposite of what they should be doing. But if you don't ask, you'll. I've always thought it was a fundamental that I should remain on my right foot to hit chip shots. If they thought that's what they're supposed to do. They've been told that, or have been, for whatever reason, believe that. You've got to find out what it is they're trying to do, what experiences they've had, and here's the thing: it's really rewarding when they've been unsuccessful in the past, and come to you a little bit negative about their chances. 4 different guys have tried to get rid of my slice, so I really don't expect much of you, but maybe you can help some. And then we get that thing turned into a draw before the thing's over. And they look at you like you returned their lost child. They're going, oh my God, I didn't believe. And when with that particular fix, of course, is another 25 yards. Right. So, it's just such a wonderful thing, particularly when in the past they've been unsuccessful in that pursuit. And, nothing gets its reward like perseverance and patience. And so for them to hang on and try one more time and finally make it work, it's awful fun to be part of that process.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. It's the look on their face especially when they've been working on for something for so long and just can't seem to put it together. And, they spend an hour with you and all of a sudden, there's a major change and they go with an excitement and they're enthusiastic again because, this was one thing. It was interesting, a few years back, just prior to COVID, and I know you know this, but there was a lot of folks that, were struggling with their game and they just, especially some of our older golfers, and they're just like, I just can't do it anymore. I'm just really struggling with the game. And then COVID came, and of course, everybody got tired of sitting inside, so they wanted to come back out. So there's kind of a resurgence, and it was really an opportunity for the industry to say, okay, let's try to make this more fun. Obviously, we want to be able to help people and become better players and so forth, but let's really, because we've got a new audience now, in addition to some of the regulars that have come around for years, we want to make it fun. We want to make this and get them enthusiastic, and there's no better way to do that than to help somebody really sort of turn the light on for them, if you will, in their own golf game. Because once they start to see and have that, as I said, that aha moment, now all of a sudden they're excited again, they're enthusiastic. I know guys that have played for 30, 40, 50 years and were on the cusp of, I don't know if I want to play anymore. And then all of a sudden you give them that little spark and they're out there outpacing their buddies in the foursome. And it's like, wow, what happened here? What got lit under your feet? And it's just because they just had struggled for so long, and all of a sudden now you found that magic, sauce, if you will, for their golf swing, and now they're able to get back out there and re-engage and enjoy the game and have fun again. And that's really what it's about. We want people to have fun and get out there and talk around the bar and joke with one another and talk about the good and the bad, but particularly we want them to talk about the good. So that's got to be a very rewarding for you and for your team.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's funny you say that. I had a gentleman come to me the other day, and he's saying, "Listen, I want you to meet my grandson and tell me what you think about his potential, because he's a baseball player, but I want to get him into golf. And if you think he has potential, he's such a good baseball player. He's been playing since he was a kid. He's already getting looked at by all kinds of colleges. But I think if he picked up golf, he could get the same thing with golf." And he says, and I want you to look at him and you tell me if you think that this is a pursuit he should follow. I said, hey, you don't have to have that to introduce him to golf. Golf isn't just for the guy who's going to take it to the highest level.
Right.
How about just all the people he said, yes, introduce him to golf, all for it, but don't give up baseball. No. If he's got stuff going on, golf is more than something you can only enjoy because it takes you somewhere because of your ability. Go out and play the game. All the people you get to meet, all the different wonderful places you get to spend time at. I mean, it is in so many ways a great game. And if you're really crazy about the game itself, obviously that's a bonus. If you just can't get enough golf, there have been times in my life when I was particularly when I first started playing, that I would rather be with someone I didn't really care for on a golf course than be with my best friend anywhere else. I loved golf. It was just like, and it didn't have to be a good golf course. It just had to be some place that had a fairway and some greens and a hole that's 4 1/4 inches in diameter. And when that's where you are with your golf, it's a fun game. You'll scope to the starter and say, put me with anybody. I'll play with anybody. I just want to play golf, and so it's a good game.
Yeah. My earlier days, that's what I did a lot of. I always would go and because sometimes my friends, for whatever reason, weren't able to play, and I would just go up to the local course and I would say, throw me in with a group, and they would, and I always had a lot of fun. And I got to be honest, and all kidding aside, but I really enjoyed playing with the ladies. They were always the biggest laugh because, and especially at that time, I'm talking, 30, 40 years ago now, but, they weren't as accomplished at the time. Now, we've got some great lady golfers out there, but, earlier on, they weren't as many out there, but you know what? They had fun. They made the most of the experience. They didn't care. They'd pick the ball up and move to the next hole. They knew, they understood that, but they just had the best fun. And I used to enjoy it. And in fact, I enjoyed it sometimes better with them than I did with some of the guys, because the guys would get so serious and, the throwing that you want to talk about snapping shafts. You'd get these guys and they'd be snapping. I can't believe I hit that darn tee shot and whatever. And the next thing the club head's flying off in the distance. But, so it's all how you approach the game. And I think, from everything I'm hearing from you tonight is you guys at Horseshoe really, really want people to come. And it's not just about great golf. Obviously, that's a thing that you're focusing on for personal reasons. But it's a great resort for the family. It's a great resort for anybody that wants to come. There's all kinds of things to do, great restaurants there as well, great eating opportunities. And again, it's very, very accessible for a lot of people. And it's a big property. It's a lot bigger than what a lot of people realize. There's a lot. I mean, you've got the golf courses, and you've got the water, and you've got all kinds of things, and a lot of great accommodations to stay at as well. Any final thoughts? Then we're going to give them the website so they can go and check it out and start making some of their own arrangements.
What I would leave anybody with is as I said before, I'd never heard of this place, and for my entire life, I always had that sense that I'm going to move on yet. I haven't yet found home, and this place, once you get here, it's so relaxing. I've got friends and family who come every single year, because they, some don't even play golf. They just, the vibe. It's almost like there's this protective dome over this wonderful place, away from the cruelties of the world. It's a magical, magical place. Horseshoe Bay is, even without the lake and the golf, but it has both of them. I would recommend anybody come to the Texas Hill Country, stay at Horseshoe Bay. If you like wineries, there are dozens and dozens of those within a short driving distance, in addition to all there is to do here at the resort. And so, but don't take my word for it. Check it out online. Go on there. We've got a world-class, award-winning spa in addition to everything else, and all the information is there. And if I can have anybody here in a golf school, 1, 2, or 3 day golf school, which is a fine accompaniment to a vacation, I think it'd be worth your while.
Yeah, no excuses for your golf game. You've got an opportunity to work with Bobby and his group out at Horseshoe Bay. All right, if you want to get more information, go to hsbresort.com. That's www.hsbresort.com. All of the information there, all about the golf courses, all kinds of things. Plan your trip. Reach out to the staff there, and I'm sure they'll help make a great trip for you. Whether it's a golf trip or whether you just want to go out there and enjoy some of the other amenities that they have to offer, just go to hsbresort.com. Bobby, I want to thank you very, very much. I'm excited. I can't wait to come out there. I have not been there yet, but I've heard a lot about it, and I've been meaning to come out. And unfortunately, this year I'm not going to be able to make it, but I'm coming next year. I don't care if I got to walk. I'm coming next year, so I'll make sure that I get in touch with you. Hang on tight for a real second, Bobby. I'm going to close up here on the show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight at Golf Talk Live. A special thanks to my earlier guest, Jim Endicoot, for joining me on the Coach's Corner panel, and also for my good friend and co-host, travel expert, Robert Kaufman, alongside this evening's special travel guest from Gamble Sands, Blake Froling. Thank you, Blake, for joining me as well. And obviously a special thanks to my featured guest of the night, Director of Golf Instruction at the Horseshoe Bay Resort in Texas, Bobby Steiner. Bobby, again, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
And I will see all of you guys next week right here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody, and have a great weekend.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coach's Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.